Hi guys, thanks for visiting my channel. If you are new here, welcome, and thank you for being a part of my community here on YouTube. And I just want to say how much I appreciate each and every one of you for subscribing to my channel, and I'm finding out that you guys are from all over the world, and I just think that that is so neat. I have some of you who have shared with me you're from Australia, and just recently I had a lovely lady contact me from Scotland asking me questions about canning, and I just think that that is so neat. So often I forget how far-reaching YouTube is, and I think that that's so neat that you guys watch me from all over the world. So thank you for being a part of my community here. Today we're going to do something really special. We are going to make a beautiful and delicious fall barbecue sauce. We're going to be making apple bourbon barbecue sauce, and it is out of this world delicious, I promise you. Now, a couple of special ingredients that we're going to be using. We are going to be using, if you watched my last video, it was on how to make boiled cider, and this stuff is liquid gold, you guys. It is so good, and I told you we were going to be using it in some upcoming recipes. Well, this is one of them. This is just the start. So if you don't have boiled cider on hand, you can either make it, you can order it online. I know you can purchase it from King Arthur Flour's website if you're interested in doing that, and if not, you can always substitute with apple oh my goodness, apple butter. That was the word I was looking for. All I could think of was applesauce. I suppose you could use applesauce, might work, but apple butter is delicious in barbecue sauce. I've used it many times and it is really great, but this is really going to amp up the flavor even more. The boiled cider is very intense in apple flavor, so I hope that you will give it a try. And if not, if you don't groove on apples, it's totally fine to leave that part out and you can just end up with bourbon barbecue sauce. So for the bourbon part, we are going to be using Maker's Mark. Now, I'm not a connoisseur of liquors. I don't know much about them, but I do know that Maker's Mark is really delicious. It's aged for 6 years in charred oak barrels, and that charred flavor is beautiful in barbecue sauce because it lends a really nice smoky flavor, which is what we're going for anyway in a barbecue sauce. So they just go beautifully together, and Maker's Mark is really delicious. It's really smooth in flavor. Now, I know it's kind of pricey, so you can use any bourbon that you choose of your liking. It's totally fine, but the Maker's Mark is divine. And then the other substitution you could make if you wanted to is Jack Daniels. Technically, Jack Daniels, as I understand it, is not really bourbon. It's just straight up whiskey, but it does have a similar flavor profile to the Maker's Mark. But it's not technically a bourbon. So it's up to you if you'd like to substitute with Jack Daniels. That's totally fine. You'll get a similar flavor. So we're gonna get started. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take a cup of our bourbon, and yes, I said a cup, but we're gonna reduce it down because we're gonna get a concentrated flavor in our barbecue sauce. And no worries, because all the alcohol is gonna cook off. So if you're using this barbecue sauce and you're gonna be serving it to people who do not drink or to little ones, you don't have to worry about the alcohol. By the time we're done, there's no alcohol left in it. So we're just gonna reduce it down and get that delicious smoky flavor in our sauce. So we're going to put a cup of that in our saucepan, and we're going to turn on our heat. And then to that, I am going to add 4 tablespoons of dried minced onion. Now, you can totally use fresh onion if you prefer, and you can use up to a cup of fresh onion. I'm going to use 4 tablespoons of the dried minced onion. It has a unique flavor. Also a little different in my opinion than using fresh onion. It's more of an intense flavor, and the nice thing that I like about it in barbecue sauce is it stays small, so it's like the perfect size throughout your sauce, so you don't have to use an immersion blender or anything to blend it up if you want a smoother sauce. So we're gonna go ahead and add 4 tablespoons. And this is a 2 tablespoon measure. Add about 4 tablespoons of our dried onion in with our bourbon. And we're going to bring that up to a simmer, and we're going to let that simmer down, let the alcohol cook off, let the flavor, let it reduce and those flavors really intensify. And it's going to take, I don't know, 10 minutes or so, depends on how high your heat is. You don't want to You don't want it boiling vigorously. You just want to bring it up to a nice simmer and let it simmer until it's reduced down to about a third of the volume that it is now. So that's what we're going to do, and I'm going to bring you in close so you can see what's going on in my pan as we add our other ingredients. Okay guys, this is what I mean by a nice gentle simmer. See how the onions are moving around a little bit and you've got some bubbles going on. I'm going to turn it down just a little bit more. You want some movement in there, but you don't want it boiling vigorously. So we just want a nice, that's perfect. That nice gentle simmer is what we're looking for. And we want our bourbon to reduce to about a third of a cup. So you're just going to have to kind of gauge it, kind of eyeball it. It's going to take about between 5 and 10 minutes for that to happen. And then we'll start adding our other ingredients. Okay guys, we're back. My bourbon has reduced to about a third of what I had in there, and my onions actually have absorbed the majority of my bourbon. So we're ready to start adding some other delicious ingredients. So we are going to add 1.5 cups of ketchup, whatever you like. I love the Simply Heinz. I think it's just Simply Heinz. It doesn't have too much added stuff in it. It's pretty basic ketchup, but it has delicious flavor. That's what I prefer. So we've got 1.5 cups of that. We're going to stir that in. And then we are going to add about 2 tablespoons of molasses. If I can get my lid off. There we go. I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of molasses, which is about what I had left in my jar. And then we're going to add a teaspoon of dry mustard, jazz it up a little bit. We're going to add a couple of tablespoons of Worcestershire, and I'm eyeballing it. All of this is to taste, you guys, so I'll give you the amounts, the approximate amounts that I use, but to be honest with you, I hardly ever measure. I just kind of eyeball things for the most part when it comes to something like this. So that was about 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire. And then we're going to add 2 tablespoons of organic apple cider vinegar. Now you can use whatever vinegar you want. Balsamic is delicious in this, which is what I used the last time. But we're making this apple-y. So if that's a word, probably isn't, but we're going to give it a more depth of flavor with the apple. So I thought the apple cider vinegar paired really well with the apple flavor that we're going for. So we're going to add 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. But again, you can use whatever you like. And if you're not going for the apple flavor here, use balsamic. It's divine. So we've got that in there, and then we're going to add 1/3 cup of brown sugar, and that's going to be up to you how sweet you like your barbecue sauce. You can use less, use more, whatever you like. Stir that in. And then we're going to add about 1 tablespoon of tomato paste, just to give it a little more body and a little extra kick of tomato in the background. And then I'm going to add about 1 teaspoon of liquid smoke. This is hickory, but as I've said before, with the liquid smoke, there's several different flavors out there, mesquite and all kinds. So use whatever you like or whatever you keep on hand, but you only need about 1 teaspoon because we're doing a small batch here. And then for some heat, I'm going to add about 1 tablespoon, couple teaspoons to 1 tablespoon of Sriracha, but you can use whatever you like for heat. You could add cayenne pepper. You could add, you could chop up some jalapenos and put them in here. You could use Tabasco, whatever you want to add a little bit of heat. And again, it's to taste. Some people like their barbecue sauce really spicy, some people don't. So I just want a little heat in the background. I like a smoky sweet sauce. Not super sweet. I like it balanced between smoky and sweet and then some heat. So I like a nice balance. So you go for whatever you like. And then, oops, the last thing we're going to add is my boiled cider. It's so good, you guys. You need to give it a try if you haven't. And I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons. Isn't that beautiful? Liquid gold. And again, that's all going to be dependent upon how much apple flavor you want in your sauce. And like I said at the beginning, if you don't groove on the apple part, just leave that out. And if you don't have the boiled cider, use the apple butter. Apple butter is really delicious in barbecue sauce. And then the last thing that I use a lot of in any barbecue sauce I make, and that is freshly ground black pepper. And I've got about 3 teaspoons of freshly ground black pepper. Now I'm gonna let this simmer. We're gonna let it simmer for about 15 minutes or so, and then I'm gonna taste it and see if it needs any salt or if I need to adjust any of my seasonings. Salt is up to you. There's salt in probably in the Worcestershire and also in the ketchup, so you can gauge that by how salty you like your barbecue sauce. But again, we just want a nice gentle simmer. We want it to reduce a little bit. We want all those flavors to meld together and to concentrate and get really yummy. So we're gonna let that simmer on a nice low heat for about 15 minutes. Then we're gonna give it a taste and adjust our seasonings, and then we're ready for to use our delicious sauce. Okay, guys, our sauce is all done. You want to make sure you cook it long enough that all your flavors meld together and that it starts to thicken a little bit, and you can cook it to your desired thickness. But the one thing I just wanted to make sure that you are aware of is you want to cook it until your onions are as really nice and tender, especially if you're using the dried onions. They can take a little while. So I would say I cooked this for about 20 minutes, and honestly I could have cooked it a little bit longer, but for today's video, I just wanted to cook it long enough that I could show it to you and show you how beautiful it is. Look at that beautiful color. Doesn't that look delicious? So perfect for fall. And when you taste it, you get that smoky flavor that you would expect from a barbecue sauce, but because of the bourbon, there's something in it that makes you go, what is that? And then you have the apple on top of that, very slight, just in the background. So it is just divine and so perfect for fall. And my favorite meat to put it on is pork chops, pork tenderloin. It just pairs so well with apples and the smoky flavor of the barbecue sauce. So good. But it's also delicious on chicken. You could use it on shrimp. It would be really good on the grill. So I hope that you will give this a try for all of your fall barbecues. So good. And like I said, if you don't groove on the apple, you can leave that out. And if you don't have boiled cider and you want to try it, I'll link my video for you up here in the corner so that you can give boiled cider a try, because we're going to be using it for some more recipes. This is just the start. So throughout the fall, I'm going to sprinkle in some recipes where we're using boiled cider in some really delicious ways. So I hope you'll give it a try. Thanks for coming along with me today. If you enjoyed today's video, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you're not a subscriber so you don't miss out on any of the fun. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below for me, and I will respond to them as soon as I can. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day, and happy fall!